Okay. So thanks so much for listening. I want to talk about the technology. I think we sort of have this view that if we have do the right technology, we end up building something that is going to be successful, right? So if we just simply have, we use whatever technology you want to sort of talk about currently right now, right? So whether you use a blockchain, whether you use, um, you know, maybe it's social media, whether you use some new refinery technique, whatever it is, it's never the technology that's actually the important thing with any of this stuff. When you're building a startup, when you're creating something new, it is almost always as a lesson repeatedly. You don't actually need a lot technologically sophisticated to actually do things that are really good. And you really have to come back and sort of slow that down and think, hey, you don't need a blockchain. You don't need an NFT. You don't need some cryptocurrency transaction. You don't need any of that kind of stuff. What all of that stuff is, the most important thing that you got to think about is really the human behavior. It's really people at the end of the day that you can do a lot. So, for example, you might think that you want to create some sort of new transaction, something on the internet that does something. Well, instead of building this complicated platform, you could just use it with Excel spreadsheets and set up, or Google spreadsheets and set it up so that people can use this thing before you actually go and jump into it. I've learned this lesson so many times. I've really had to work on this a lot. It's not the technology that people, so there is a bit of cachet. There's a bit of like people being interested in technology for the sake of its technology. So for example, you said that you're doing something with NFTs at this moment. You're probably going to be getting, investors. People will be like, "Oh my gosh!" But ultimately, I think that those investors are pretty fooled. A wise investor is going to start looking at, wait a minute, it's not the technology. It's like who is actually there, who is part of the team, who is actually helping out, and then on top of it, are they actually creating something that is meaningful in this world, right? Like that is something that people appreciate, that understand, that actually want to do that. And the tricky part is it's not obvious with any of it in terms of do people appreciate it? Because when you first introduce something, it's never going to be that good. It's going to be, people are going to discount it. It's not that great. That there is not a lot that's going on with it. You have to sort of figure out um, what is staging, how does this technology actually work to put it all together. So, coming back to this, it is not the actual technology. Don't worry about that when you're starting something and doing something. You don't need to have all of this sophisticated stuff. That comes after, once you figure out how to actually do it, right? Like that is very much it's a very much an afterthought. But you have to sort of figure out, are people willing to actually pay for this thing? Are they willing to use it? Is this something that people, are lacking? And all of those questions, right? Like all of those things you can discover and think about, you know, with not spending a heck of a lot. And the problem is that you actually have to do it, right? So if I said, build this, instead of saying build an application, I just said, well, why don't you just go to use Google Sheets and create an application on Google Sheets that mimics what you're thinking of doing? Now, if nobody is willing to go on to Google Sheets, or nobody is willing to actually use this thing that you're doing, woof, that's a strong sign that there's something that's going on there. And you have to figure out either A, how to communicate this in a better way, or B, find the right audience of what you're trying to do. And the key is those are really key aspects to figure out. is this actually going to be a viable product in the future? I know that this seems really rinky dinky to think about this kind of stuff, but it is um, essential to thinking about how to find, create an innovation or create an entrepreneurial venture that's actually going to be successful in the long run. And if you don't do that stuff first, man, you just spend so much money trying to get all the technology to work. Trust me, the reciprocity platform is very expensive, and I'm still trying to get it to work, even though that I'm trying to do it as cheaply and as inexpensively as possible. It works, but the problem is getting the right audience, getting people to sort of discover and think about this as the project. So I just want everybody to be well aware. Don't get enamored with the technology. Don't get enamored with all that stuff that typically novices will get into and be all enthusiastic about. That's really not the point. The thing that's more important is the sort of simple stuff that that everybody overlooks, but it's actually the more important thing. Getting people to care about what you're doing and think about what you're doing. And once you get people to care and finding that group of people that actually does care, then you can actually start working on the technology. So it's backwards then in terms of how people think about the problem. All right, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.